The moment Derek Sullivan's hand pressed against my chest and he smirked with those 3 words, "Oops, sorry, ghost," I knew my 5-year vow was about to shatter. The promise I'd made to never use my training again suddenly felt like chains around my wrists. Chains that were cutting into my skin as his fingers lingered a second too long. What he didn't know was that beneath my oversized hoodie, my muscles were already remembering every counter move, every joint lock, every technique that could turn his arrogant smile into a scream. But I'm getting ahead of myself to understand why breaking Derek's wrist would feel like both a betrayal and a liberation. You need to know about the girl I used to be. The girl who made a promise, sealed in tears and blood, 5 years ago. Before we dive into this story, if you're someone who's ever felt powerless, ever been pushed too far, or ever wondered when enough is finally enough, hit that like button. It really helps these stories reach people who need to hear them. And hey, drop a comment about where you're watching from. I love seeing this community come together from all over the world. If these stories have touched you in any way, and you want to help me create more content that matters, that little thanks button below is always appreciated. Every contribution, no matter how small, helps me dedicate more time to sharing these important messages about standing up for yourself and finding your inner strength. Thank you for being here. Now, let me tell you about Madison Crawford. My name is Madison Crawford, though nobody at Westfield Elite Academy called me that. To them, I was Ghost Girl, always silent, always invisible, always alone, head down, hood up, earbuds in. The perfect formula for survival in a school where your father's bank account determined your worth. And mine barely covered tuition. 3 months. That's how long I'd managed to stay under the radar at Westfield. 3 months of dodging questions, avoiding eye contact, and perfecting the art of disappearing in plain sight. Until that September morning in physical education, when Mr. Carter announced partner assignments for the semester. "All right, people." His whistle shrieked across the gymnasium, the sound bouncing off polished floors that probably cost more than most people's cars. "Partner up for fitness assessments. And no, you can't work alone." Crawford. 28 pairs of eyes turned to me. I kept staring at my worn sneakers, counting the scuff marks like they were the most fascinating thing in the world. 1, 2, 3, 4. "Yo, Ghost Girl doesn't have a partner." Derek Sullivan's voice cut through the gym like a serrated knife. Everything about Derek screamed privilege, from his perfectly styled blonde hair to his custom Nike gear that he wore like armor. 6'2" of entitled muscle and testosterone, with eyes the color of winter sky and just as cold. "I'll work with her, Mr. Carter," Grace Nakamura offered quickly. Grace was one of the few decent humans at Westfield, with her warm brown eyes and genuine smile that reached all the way to her soul. But I couldn't let her get involved. Getting close to me never ended well for anyone. "No need." Derek's sneakers squeaked against the floor as he strutted over, his shadow falling across my hunched form. "Ghost Girl and I will partner up. Right. Ghost." The smart thing would have been to nod and endure whatever humiliation he had planned. The smart thing would have been to remember Rebecca's face, pale with shock as she cradled her broken arm, tears streaming down her cheeks as she whispered, "I know you didn't mean to, Maddie, but you're too strong. You're dangerous." Instead, I made my first mistake. I looked up. Derek's ice blue eyes widened slightly, probably surprised that Ghost Girl actually had a face beneath the hood. For a split second, Something flickered across his expression, curiosity maybe, or the predatory interest of a cat who'd just spotted movement in the grass. "Sure," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. First word I'd spoken in PE all semester. "What was that?" Derek leaned closer, and I caught the scent of his cologne, something expensive and sharp that made my nose itch. "Speak up, Ghost! Use your big girl voice." Connor Mitchell laughed from across the gym. Connor was Derek's shadow, shorter and stockier with muddy brown hair and the desperate eagerness of someone who'd do anything to stay in the popular crowd. Where Derek was cold calculation, Connor was nervous energy and misplaced loyalty. "I said sure," I repeated, louder this time but still looking at the floor. "Great!" Mr. Carter blew his whistle again, already checking his phone. "Everyone start with baseline measurements. Push-ups, sit-ups, flexibility. You know the drill," as the class dispersed into pairs. Derek circled me slowly, like a shark testing the water. "So, Ghost Girl speaks. What else can you do? Can you do a push-up? Or are you too weak under all those baggy clothes?" I dropped to the floor without a word, settling into perfect push-up position. Arms shoulder-width apart. Back straight as a board. Core engaged. The form was automatic, drilled into me through thousands of repetitions in a very different kind of gym. 1, I counted softly, lowering myself until my chest nearly touched the floor, then pushing back up with controlled precision. "That's actually not bad." Derek sounded genuinely surprised. "Connor, come look at this. Ghost Girl has form. 2. Down and up, breathing steady." Connor jogged over, his footsteps heavy and graceless. "No way. Bet she can't do more than 5. 3. The familiar burn in my muscles felt like coming home. "I'll take that bet," Derek said. $20 says she stops at 10. 4. Let them bet. Let them watch. As long as they didn't touch. By the time I hit 15, a small crowd had gathered. By 20, even Mr. Carter had looked up from his phone. By 30, Derek's smirk had faded into something else, annoyance maybe, or the first stirrings of suspicion. I could have kept going. At my peak, I'd done 200 straight. Master Chen counting each one in his gravelly voice while reminding me that true strength came from discipline, not anger. But I stopped at 35, just enough to make a point without revealing too much. "Not bad. Ghost." Derek's voice had an edge now, sharp as broken glass. "Where'd you learn that?" I shrugged, pulling my hood back up as I stood. "YouTube." Connor snorted. "YouTube, right. Nobody gets arms like that from YouTube." "Arms like what?" I glanced down at my covered limbs, suddenly aware that my hoodie had ridden up during the exercise, revealing forearms marked with old training scars and corded with lean muscle. "Leave her alone. Guys," Grace called from where she was stretching with her partner. "She did the exercise. Move on." But Derek Sullivan didn't move on from anything. He stepped closer, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. "You hiding something under all that fabric? Ghost, some kind of athletic scholarship kid, Daddy couldn't afford the full tuition." The truth was so much more complicated than that. Yes, I was on partial scholarship, but not for athletics, academic merit. Plus, a hardship grant after Dad's construction accident left him unable to work. Mom picked up double shifts at the hospital, coming home with her scrubs stained and her eyes hollow from exhaustion. Every dollar mattered, which is why I wore the same 3 hoodies in rotation and pretended not to notice when other kids threw away barely touched lunches. "Just do the assessment," I muttered. Stepping back, But Derek followed, matching my retreat step for step. You know what I think. I think Ghost Girl here is hiding something. Maybe she's one of those MMA wannabes, watching cage fights and thinking she's tough. MMA, mixed martial arts. If only he knew how wrong and how right he was at the same time. Dude, just drop it, Connor said. But there was no real conviction in his voice. He was already caught in Derek's gravitational pull, unable to resist even when his better instincts kicked in. The rest of PE passed in tense silence, but I could feel Derek's eyes on me the entire time, watching, calculating, planning. That was Tuesday. By Thursday, the accidents had started. It began small, a shoulder check in the hallway that sent my books flying, followed by Derek's practiced apology. "Oh, sorry. Ghost. Didn't see you there. You really live up to your name, huh?" Then my locker started jamming. Every single day. The janitor said it was just old hinges, but I saw Connor lurking nearby with a screwdriver badly hidden in his backpack. Friday brought the lunch incident. I'd found my usual spot in the corner of the cafeteria, invisible behind a pillar, when Derek appeared with his full entourage. 6 of Westfield's elite, including Skylar Morrison, with her perfect platinum hair and designer everything, and Mason Brooks, who thought his father's law firm made him untouchable. "This seat taken?" Derek asked, already sliding into the bench across from me. I stared at my turkey sandwich like it held the secrets of the universe. Mom had made it this morning at 4:30 before her shift, leaving a note that said, "Have a good day, sweetheart," in her tired handwriting. "Ghost Girl's being rude again," Skylar observed, examining her manicured nails. "Maybe she doesn't speak English. Maybe that's why she never talks." "I heard she's on welfare," Mason added, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Explains the hobo fashion." "Nah," Derek said thoughtfully, unwrapping what looked like a $40 sushi platter. "I think our ghost has secrets, and you know what I'm gonna find out what they are." He reached across the table, quick as a snake, and grabbed my sandwich. "Let's see what Ghost Girl eats. Oh, turkey and cheese. How basic." "Give it back." The words came out before I could stop them, low and steady. Derek's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "There's that voice again. See, guys, she can talk. She just chooses not to. That's called being antisocial. Probably why she doesn't have any friends." He was wrong about that, too. I'd had a friend once, a best friend, Rebecca Chen, with her infectious laugh and her way of making even algebra seem fun. We'd been inseparable since 3rd grade, right up until that day at her 13th birthday party when some older kids decided to play birthday beatdown, and I'd stepped in to protect her. One throw. That's all it took. One perfectly executed hip toss that sent the biggest kid flying across Rebecca's backyard. But I'd been angry, scared for my friend, and I'd used too much force when I tried to help Rebecca up. Forgetting my own strength in the adrenaline rush, I'd gripped her wrist too hard. The snap was audible even over the party music. Compound fracture. 3 surgeries. Permanent nerve damage that ended her dreams of becoming a pianist. "Madison, you're not normal," she'd said from her hospital bed, her parents hovering protectively beside her. "You're too strong. It's scary. I think we shouldn't be friends anymore." That night, I'd knelt in Master Chen's dojo and made him a promise. No more fighting, no more training, no more risk of hurting someone I cared about. He'd argued, said I was making a mistake, that true martial arts was about control, not abstinence, but I'd already made up my mind. 5 years. 5 years of hiding what I was, of pretending to be weak, of letting the world think I was just another scared, skinny girl who couldn't defend herself. Derek was still holding my sandwich, waving it around like a trophy. "What's wrong? Ghost gonna cry, gonna run to the principal. Just give it back," I repeated. My hands clenched under the table. I could see exactly how it would go. Grab his wrist. Apply pressure to the nerve cluster. Force release. 3 seconds max, but I couldn't. I wouldn't. "Make me." He took a huge bite, chewing obnoxiously. Your mom makes a good sandwich. Must be all that practice making them for other people's kids at whatever fast food place she works at." Something hot and dangerous flashed through my chest. But before I could respond, Grace appeared at our table like an avenging angel in a Westfield blazer. "That's enough. Derek, give her back her lunch." "Or what? Nakamura, you'll tell your daddy to revoke our country club membership." Grace's father was actually a pediatric surgeon who volunteered at free clinics on weekends. But Derek didn't care about accuracy when he was performing for an audience. "No," Grace said calmly. "I'll tell everyone about what happened at Skylar's pool party last summer. You remember, right? When you—" Okay. Derek threw the mangled sandwich back at me, hitting me square in the chest and leaving mustard on my hoodie. "Jesus, Nakamura, learn to take a joke." As they left, Connor lingered for just a moment, something almost like guilt flickering across his face. "You should probably find somewhere else to eat," he muttered. Derek doesn't like being challenged. I spent the rest of lunch in the bathroom, dabbing at the mustard stain and trying to salvage what was left of my sandwich. My stomach growled in protest. But I was used to being hungry. Physical discomfort was nothing compared to the ache of keeping everything locked inside. That weekend, I broke my promise to Master Chen just a little. Not to train. Exactly. But to remember. I went to our old dojo, or what was left of it. The building had been sold 2 years ago, turned into a CrossFit gym for soccer moms and executives who thought tire flipping made them warriors. But late at night, when the gym was closed, I could still access the roof through the fire escape. I stood in the darkness, running through forms I hadn't practiced in half a decade. Shadow boxing with ghosts. My body remembering every move like it had been yesterday. The moon was my only witness as I flowed through the kata. Each movement precise and deadly, and utterly useless because I'd never use them again, or so I thought. Monday brought a new level of harassment. My gym clothes disappeared from my locker, replaced with a note that said, "Ghost Girl needs to learn to smile more. DS." I had to do PE in my regular clothes, Mr. Carter marking me down for being unprepared while Derek smirked from across the gym. Tuesday, someone poured honey in my backpack. Everything was ruined: my textbooks, my notebooks, the calculator I'd saved for months to buy. When I went to the office to report it, the secretary just shrugged. "These pranks happen. Kids will be kids. Maybe try being more social." Wednesday was the Instagram incident. Someone, definitely Connor, based on the terrible photo quality, had taken a picture of me changing in the bathroom stall. Just a glimpse of my back visible over the door. But that glimpse showed the edge of a tattoo most people didn't know I had. Master Chen's dojo symbol, inked the day I turned 16 as a reminder of what I'd given up. The photo was posted with the caption, "Ghost Girl has secrets. What else is she hiding?" By Thursday, theories were flying. Ghost Girl was in witness protection. Ghost Girl was a Russian spy. Ghost Girl had gang tattoos. Ghost Girl was actually a boy. Each rumor was more ridiculous than the last, but they all served Derek's purpose, turning me from invisible to infamous. "Heard you're quite the celebrity now," Grace said, sliding into the seat next to me in AP Literature. It was the only class we shared, and the only 50 minutes of my day when I felt somewhat human. "It'll pass," I mumbled, not looking up from my copy of The Great Gatsby. "Will it, though?" She lowered her voice. "Madison, that is your name. Right, I've seen how Derek operates. He doesn't stop until he breaks people. Last year, there was this kid, Jordan Westbrook. Derek decided he was gay, started a whole campaign. Jordan ended up transferring mid-semester." "I'm not transferring." The words came out harder than I intended. Grace studied me with those perceptive brown eyes. "You're different from the others he's targeted. You don't react the way he expects. It's making him escalate." She was right. Each day brought new attempts to provoke a response. Derek accidentally spilled his energy drink on me. Connor stumbled and knocked me into the lockers. Skylar started a betting pool on how long until Ghost Girl cracked. But I endured it all with the same silent patience Master Chen had taught me. "The mountain does not concern itself with the buzzing of flies," he used to say. Of course, he'd also said, "But sometimes the mountain must erupt to remind the world of its power," which was somewhat less helpful in my current situation. Thursday afternoon, PE again. The class that had become my personal hell since Derek decided I was his new project. We were supposed to be doing basketball drills, but Mr. Carter had vanished again, probably sneaking a smoke behind the equipment shed like he thought we didn't know. I was shooting free throws alone at the far hoop, muscle memory from middle school team days making each shot swish through the net. When I felt them approaching, that particular combination of cologne and malice that meant Derek and his crew were hunting. "Ghost Girl's got game," Derek announced, snatching the ball mid-dribble. "But can she play defense?" Connor and Mason flanked him, forming a triangle with me at the center. The rest of the class had mysteriously found other things to do on the opposite side of the gym. "Just give me the ball back." I kept my voice level, non-threatening. Sometimes predators got bored if you didn't act like prey. "Come and get it." Derek held the ball over his head, his 6'2" frame towering over my 5'6". "Unless you're too weak." "Are you weak?" "Ghost." "Yes." The admission came easily. Let him think I was weak. Let them all think it. "She admits it." Connor laughed, but it sounded forced. "Ghost Girl is weak. You know what I think." Derek stepped closer. Close enough that I could see the little scar on his chin from where Skylar had told me he'd fallen off his dirt bike at age 10. "I think you're lying. I think you're one of those girls who watches too much anime and thinks she's some kind of secret badass." Another step. I backed up, hit the wall, trapped. "Personal space," I said quietly. "What was that?" Derek cupped his ear mockingly. "Did Ghost Girl just try to give me an order?" "Dude," Mason said uneasily, "Carter could come back." "Carter doesn't care," Derek snapped, never taking his eyes off me. "Nobody cares about Ghost Girl. That's the beauty of being invisible. Nobody notices when you disappear." He reached out, and for one horrible moment, I thought he was going to grab my throat. Instead, his hand landed on my shoulder, squeezing just hard enough to hurt. "See, weak. Can't even push me away." His other hand came up, hovering near my face. "What would happen if I—" "Stop." The word came out sharp as a blade. "Or what?" His hand moved lower, toward my chest. "What are you gonna do? Ghost, scream, tell on me? Who's gonna believe the weird girl over—" Time slowed to a crawl. I saw his hand moving, saw the smirk on his face, saw Connor's nervous giggle and Mason's uncomfortable shuffle, saw Grace across the gym, her eyes wide with horror as she realized what was about to happen, saw Rebecca's face, twisted in pain, heard her voice across 5 years, "You're too strong. You're dangerous." Derek's palm made contact with my chest, fingers spreading possessively as he squeezed. "Oops, sorry, ghost." 5 years of control shattered like spun glass. My hand came up faster than thought, faster than decision, muscle memory taking over where consciousness failed. I grabbed his wrist, thumb finding the pressure point between the radius and ulna, and twisted with the precise amount of force Master Chen had drilled into me 1,000 times. The crack was audible across the entire gymnasium. Derek's scream pierced the gymnasium like a fire alarm, high and sharp and utterly shocked. He dropped to his knees, cradling his wrist against his chest. His face, cycling through colors I didn't know human skin could achieve, white to red, to an interesting shade of purple. My wrist. She broke my wrist. The freak broke my wrist. The entire gym froze. 28 students. One worthless PE teacher who'd just magically reappeared, all staring at the scene like someone had hit pause on reality. Derek Sullivan, untouchable golden boy of Westfield Elite Academy, was on the ground crying actual tears, and Ghost Girl was standing over him, still as a statue. Her hand still raised in the finishing position of kotegaeshi, the wrist-turning technique that had just ended 5 years of silence. "Madison!" Grace's voice cut through the shocked silence as she sprinted across the court. "Oh my God! Are you okay?" Was I okay? The question felt absurd. My body was fine, better than fine. Actually, every nerve was singing, every muscle remembered its purpose. But my mind was fracturing, caught between the satisfaction of finally fighting back and the crushing weight of my broken promise. "She's crazy!" Connor shouted, dropping to his knees beside Derek. "You're insane! You broke his arm! Wrist," I corrected automatically. "Distal radius fracture, probably. His arm is fine." Connor's face twisted with rage. "You think this is funny? You're going to jail for this!" He lunged at me, all 200 pounds of uncoordinated fury. But compared to Derek's calculated approach, Connor was like a toddler having a tantrum. I sidestepped, caught his reaching arm, and applied the same technique, gentler this time. Just enough to hyperextend the joint and make him reconsider his life choices. Except Connor didn't know when to quit. He yanked back, trying to break free with brute force instead of following the joint's natural movement. Physics did the rest. Crack. "My wrist?" Connor hit the ground next to Derek, clutching his arm. "She broke mine, too. She's a psychopath." "Everyone freeze!" Mr. Carter's whistle shrieked as he finally decided to do his job. "Nobody move. Someone call the nurse and security and the principal." I stood in the eye of the hurricane, watching chaos swirl around me. Mason had backed against the wall, hands raised like I might come for him next. Skylar was filming everything on her phone, her perfectly glossed lips forming a small O of shock. Half the class looked terrified. The other half looked impressed. Madison. Grace touched my shoulder gently, like approaching a wild animal. "We need to get your side of the story straight before—" "There is no story," I said, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. "Derek sexually assaulted me. I defended myself. Connor attacked me. I defended myself again. End of story." Sexual assault, Mr. Carter blustered, his face flushing. That's a serious accusation, young lady. Derek was just— He grabbed my chest, I interrupted, meeting his eyes for the first time all semester. After cornering me against the wall, after I'd told him to stop, what would you call it, Mr. Carter? The security guards arrived before he could answer, followed by the school nurse and then Principal Coleman himself, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else in the world. What happened here? Coleman demanded, taking in the scene two of his star students on the ground. One quiet girl standing calmly in the center of it all. She attacked us, Derek gasped through his tears. Out of nowhere, I was just talking to her and she went crazy. Is that true? Coleman turned to Mr. Carter, who suddenly found his sneakers fascinating. I didn't see exactly what happened. I was checking equipment in the storage room. He was smoking behind the shed, I said flatly, like he does every Thursday during fifth period. Carter's face went from red to white. That's not— Check the security cameras, Grace interjected. They'll show everything. The cameras in the gym don't work, Coleman said dismissively. Haven't for months. The one in the northwest corner does, I said. It's the only one Derek's father didn't have disabled when he donated the new scoreboard. He must have missed it because it's partially hidden behind the championship banner. The gymnasium fell silent again. Coleman's expression shifted from annoyance to something much more careful. How do you know about that camera? He asked slowly. Because I notice things, I replied. Like how Derek and his friends have been harassing me for 3 weeks. Like how my locker gets jammed every day. Like how my gym clothes disappeared and my backpack got filled with honey and someone took a photo of me changing in the bathroom. She's lying, Connor wheezed from the floor. We never— Check his phone, I suggested. The photo's probably still there, posted on that anonymous Instagram account Westfield Secrets, the one Derek runs from his burner phone. How could you possibly know? Derek started, then shut his mouth so fast his teeth clicked. Mason made a small sound like a stepped-on mouse. Dude, you said that account was untraceable. Shut up, Derek hissed. Principal Coleman pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police and your parents. All of your parents. He looked at me with something between frustration and grudging respect. Miss Crawford, you'll need to come to my office. After the nurse checks her for injuries, Grace said firmly. Derek grabbed her before she defended herself. There might be bruising. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of questions, statements, and revelations. The functional security camera confirmed everything Derek cornering me. The unwanted touching. My defensive response. What it also showed was 3 weeks of minor incidents that suddenly looked a lot more serious when viewed in sequence. My parents arrived in a whirlwind of righteous fury. I'd never seen my mother look so dangerous in her rumpled scrubs, or my father move so fast with his bad back. They've been torturing her for weeks, and nobody did anything. Mom's voice could have stripped paint. Where were the teachers? Where was the supervision? Mrs. Crawford, I assure you we had no idea, Coleman started. Because you weren't looking. Dad interrupted. His construction-roughened hands clenched on his cane. Rich kids get away with everything here while kids like Madison are told to just endure it. The Sullivans arrived in a Mercedes that cost more than my house. Derek's father looking like an older, meaner version of his son. This is ridiculous, Sullivan Sr. declared before even asking if his son was okay. Some scholarship kid attacks my boy, and you're treating her like the victim? Your son sexually assaulted a student, Coleman said carefully. It's on video. Boys will be boys, Mrs. Sullivan said dismissively, checking her phone. I'm sure it was just a misunderstanding. How much do you want? Excuse me. My mother's voice dropped to sub-zero. For the medical bills or whatever, we'll write a check. Obviously, the girl overreacted, but we're willing to be generous. We don't want your money, Dad said quietly. We want your son held accountable. Accountable? Mr. Sullivan laughed. For what? Touching some nobody. Do you know who I am? I own half this town. I'll bury you in legal fees before this ever sees a courtroom. And that's when the door opened and 3 more people walked in, Jordan Westbrook and his parents. Actually, Jordan's mother said, holding a thick folder. We've been documenting Derek's behavior for 2 years, ever since he made our son's life hell. We were told nothing could be done because of your influence, Mr. Sullivan, but assault captured on camera. That changes things. Over the next hour, more families arrived, 8 in total, all with stories about Derek and his crew. Harassment, intimidation, theft. Assault, a pattern of behavior that had been ignored or covered up because of the Sullivan family's wealth and influence. This is a conspiracy, Sullivan spat. You're all just jealous of my son's success. Your son has 2 broken wrists, the police officer noted, having arrived to take statements. The security footage shows clear self-defense. Miss Crawford used reasonable force to stop an assault in progress. Reasonable force? Derek laughed bitterly from where he sat with ice packs on his wrists. She's some kind of trained fighter. Look what she did to us. Yes? I said quietly, and everyone turned to look at me. I am trained. 6 years of Aikido, 3 years of Judo, 2 years of Krav Maga. I stopped when I was 13 because I accidentally hurt my best friend trying to protect her. I promised myself I'd never use it again. The room fell silent. Even my parents looked shocked. They knew I'd done martial arts as a kid, but not the extent of it. For 5 years, I kept that promise. I continued. I let people push me around, call me names, steal my things, spread rumors, because I was more afraid of what I could do than what they could do to me. But when Derek put his hands on me, I met his eyes across the room. You gave me no choice. So you admit you're dangerous. Mrs. Sullivan pounced. She just admitted she's a trained fighter who attacked my son. A trained fighter who showed remarkable restraint, the officer corrected. She could have done much worse. The techniques used were designed to incapacitate with minimal damage, though. He glanced at Connor. Resisting the joint lock definitely made it worse. Connor turned green. She told me I was making it worse, but I didn't listen. Shut up, Derek hissed. No. Connor shook his head, looking miserable. I'm done. My wrist is broken. Dude, actually broken. Because I was stupid enough to follow you. Again. He looked at the officer. I want to make a statement about everything. The locker jamming, the honey, the Instagram account, all of it. The dam broke. Mason started talking. Then 2 kids I didn't even know came forward, even Skylar. After a long look at Derek's purpling face, admitted to witnessing multiple incidents. By the time the dust settled, Derek was facing charges for sexual assault, harassment, and cyberbullying. Connor got lesser charges for his involvement. Mr. Carter was suspended pending investigation into negligence. And Principal Coleman was forced to implement sweeping anti-bullying policies that actually had teeth. The Sullivans tried to throw their weight around, but it turned out that even in a small town, there were limits to what money could buy. The video was unambiguous. The witness testimony was overwhelming. And the medical reports showing defensive injuries on my arms where Derek had grabbed me sealed the deal. Both boys required surgery to repair their fractures. The damage was worse for Derek. The sudden twisting motion had caused complex breaks that would require pins and months of physical therapy. He'd never have full range of motion again. Did I feel guilty? Part of me did. The part that remembered Rebecca's tears and my younger self's horror at causing pain. But a bigger part, the part Master Chen would have been proud of, knew that sometimes defending yourself meant accepting that attackers might get hurt. That was their choice, not mine. You did the right thing, Grace told me a week later, after the story had spread through school like wildfire. You know that, right? We were sitting in the cafeteria at a center table, not hidden in a corner. People still stared, but now it was with something closer to awe than mockery. I broke my promise, I said simply. You kept a more important one, she countered. The promise everyone has to themselves to not let people hurt them without consequence. She was right, but it took someone else to make me really believe it. I was cleaning out my locker, my unjammed, fully functional locker, when I heard a familiar voice. Maddie. I turned, and there she was, Rebecca Chen, older but unmistakable, standing in the hallway of my high school wearing a Berkeley sweatshirt and a nervous smile. Becca! My voice came out strangled. How did you… I saw the news story, she said, approaching slowly. Girl breaks attacker's wrist in self-defense. When I saw your picture, I knew I had to come. I'm sorry. The words tumbled out. I'm so sorry about your arm, about the piano, about everything. Stop. She held up her hand, her perfectly functional, unscarred hand. Madison, I need to tell you something. My arm healed completely. I played piano all through high school. I'm studying music therapy at Berkeley. The world tilted. But you said… I was 13 and scared, Rebecca said softly. My parents were scared. You were so strong and we didn't understand it. But Maddie, you were protecting me. You've always protected people, and I've regretted pushing you away every day since. I hurt you. The words came out thick with 5 years of guilt. You saved me from getting beat up by 3 older kids, she corrected. And yeah, you gripped too hard when you helped me up. But that wasn't violence. That was inexperience. There's a difference. She pulled out her phone, showing me a video. It was her, playing a complex piano piece with perfect precision. I saw what that boy did to you, she continued. And I saw how you responded. Controlled, precise, only as much force as necessary. That's not the girl who hurt me by accident. That's the woman who learned control through sacrifice. And I'm so proud of you. We hugged in the middle of the hallway, both crying, while confused students streamed around us. I have something to show you, I said when we finally pulled apart. I led her to the old music room, abandoned since budget cuts killed the arts program. But 3 times a week after school, it served a different purpose. Welcome to the Westfield Women's Self-Defense Club, I announced, opening the door to reveal 15 girls in various stages of practicing blocks and strikes. Madison, Jasmine Rodriguez called out, Is this the famous Rebecca? I'd told them the story during our first meeting, explaining why I'd hidden my skills and why I'd finally decided to share them. These girls, some former victims of Derek, others just tired of feeling powerless, had become my first students. Everyone needs to know how to protect themselves, I explained to Rebecca as we watched them train. But more importantly, they need to know when and why. Control isn't about never using your strength. It's about using it wisely. Master Chen would be proud, Rebecca said softly. Actually, I grinned. He's our guest instructor next week. Turns out he never gave up on me, even when I gave up on myself. Principal Coleman appeared in the doorway, looking oddly pleased. Miss Crawford, a word. We stepped into the hallway. The school board met last night, he said. In light of recent events and the positive impact of your club, they're approving funding for a full self-defense program. Proper mats, equipment, insurance, everything. Would you consider teaching it officially? Paid position, of course. I'm 17, I pointed out. You'll be 18 by summer. You can start as an assistant instructor, then take over fully after graduation. We've already got 30 students signed up for next semester. My fists had been closed for 5 years. Now, finally, they were open, ready to catch anyone who needed help standing up. Class was in session. 3 months later, I received an unexpected letter. Derek Sullivan, writing from his rehabilitation center. Not an apology exactly, but close. You were right. I was a monster. Maybe breaking my wrist was the only thing that could have stopped me from becoming something worse. Thank you. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in my desk drawer next to Rebecca's old friendship bracelet. Redemption came in many forms, sometimes through pain, sometimes through forgiveness, always through choice. That night, as my students practiced their forms, I watched their shadows dance across the walls, no longer victims, no longer ghosts, but warriors in training. Each strike they threw carried the weight of every person who'd ever felt powerless. And somewhere in the city, another scared kid was learning that strength wasn't about hurting others. It was about having the power to protect yourself and choosing when to use it. Class dismissed.